Hi, I'd like to give a warm welcome to my next guest, who is Chris Moss from Oversubscribed. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, Mark, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of listening to the Deals podcast, so it's amazing to be on here. Thank you.
Yeah, I've really been looking forward to this one, Chris, because I've seen you journey your portfolio builder that you've been doing for yourself. And I think it'd be great for anybody that's looking to do a similar thing, those that are kind of like, have got a full-time job running their own business and they want to build like their own portfolio on the side. I think you've got like a great example of doing that. So I think it'll be great listen for people.
Yeah, looking forward to share.
Yeah. So for those that don't know you, Chris, would you like to give us a bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I run a company called Oversubscribed, and we help property entrepreneurs raise their profile online and build a brand. And the main aim of what we do is so that whenever anyone checks out our clients online, whether they're looking to work with them, invest with them, that they then represent themselves successfully and ideally get more deals or investment or client off the back of it. So that's what I currently do now and have done for a number of years.
Just on that
Previous
though, Chris,
Sorry, yeah.
did you say a little story about one of your clients recently, giving the example of what you've just said?
Yeah, so we had a client recently who we've been helping them raise their profile and build their brand, whether that be sort of brochures and various different marketing assets that we create for them. And off the back of some of their social content and a couple of social posts recently, they raised and got offered over £1 million in funding for their portfolio and their deals, which was, a huge win for them.
Fantastic. Yeah. So that's a great example then. Yeah. Oversubscribed, raising the profile.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have the stuff like that all the time, that not to that level. That's not normal, unfortunately. But yeah, sort of generating leads and creating a brand is has been hugely important for our clients.
Yeah. So then before that, I believe you went to university. Which one did you go to and what did you study?
Yeah, so I went to Nottingham Trent University, the same as Dan Hill from Property Entrepreneur, which is where I first came across Dan and met Dan. I rented an office next to where one of his companies at the time rented an office, and just got to see what he was doing then. And I studied business marketing management when I was there.
Okay. Is that when you started one of your first businesses?
Yeah, so the first business I started and have continued to operate in the same space ever since, it was a marketing company. So it was over 10 years ago now, and yeah, I've continued to do that ever since. I started it in my second year of university, so my course was a course that allowed you to do that. So yeah.
And what was that doing then? What was that business?
Yeah, so it was a publishing company. So we basically created content for university students, and we did that just at Nottingham Trent originally, and then we scaled it across 16 cities around the UK. And we get around about 500,000 students a month on that website to connect brands with students. And off the back of that is where my sort of insight into property first came about.
Okay. Yeah. So just then, when do you actually join Property Entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I joined Property Entrepreneur. This is my fourth year on Property Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So yeah, what would that be? 2019, 18?
Yeah. Okay, great. And what was the reason for that?
Yeah, so originally I wanted to come on to learn about property, and realized it wasn't it is property related, but it was more the structure to be able to grow a portfolio. And that's where I really, that was the reason I came on, is to understand that and try and grow the marketing company. And off the back of it, obviously, was able to meet some great people and grow the portfolio.
Okay. Yeah. And oh yeah, one of the things people are interested in is the wealth dynamics. So have you done yours? What's your profile?
Yeah. So what would you guess?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know. Are you a creator?
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, create a mechanic.
Ah, right. Okay. So the mechanic, that's a really good aspect to have, isn't it, within your business, doing all
Yeah.
the systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think without that, I'd probably be in trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Because Dan's also creative mechanic, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great profile to have. So you've joined Property Entrepreneur. At that point, did you have any properties yourself?
No, so when I started Property Entrepreneur, I had no properties. I hadn't bought my own property either at the time, so literally zero property experience from a purchasing perspective. I'd worked with property companies from helping them market themselves, but
Yeah.
beyond that, had no insight into property until I joined.
Yeah. Okay. And then how did you then? Because I think there are quite a few people that actually join who have got different businesses for the actual business side of things. So even though it's called property entrepreneur, there's a lot of like value to be gained. And I think people have kind of like had some really big successes in separate business, just being on it for the actual, the learnings and also the group, the kind
Yes.
of the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I joined Property Entrepreneur, and the value I've had from it has been incredible. Not from the property side of things, which we'll go into, has been good, but it's actually the value I've had has been far greater from the company structure and the company growth, and the lessons on that side of things has been a game changer for us.
Okay, good. So let's just then go on to the property. What is it that you've focused on as your strategy?
Yeah, so what I was looking to achieve was to create a portfolio that generated cash flow. So Dan talks a lot about the sort of wealth hierarchy. So sorting your cash flow out, your profit, and then the assets at the top.
Yeah,
So the cash flow and the profit, my sort of businesses do that.
yeah,
So I really wanted to focus on creating the assets, and that's what my sort of goal going into it was. But what I also wanted was some assets that generated cash flow,
mhm,
to try and achieve Dan's living off the steam. I believe he did a podcast about that, and that's what I was trying to achieve. I recommend anyone listening to that actually, because that really encompasses what I was trying to achieve with this.
yeah. Okay, good. And then how did you then put your strategy together?
Yeah, so I watched a load of YouTube videos,
Yeah,
and created the sort of buy to let strategy, and I think the what it was referred to, and I presume it probably is the BRRR,
yeah,
buy, refurbish, rent, refinance,
yeah,
was the strategy, and that I put together off watching videos. But then what I did was take that strategy, and I spoke to 5 or 6 people on Property Entrepreneur that have been doing this type of thing for 10, 20 years, far more experienced than I am, and sort of said to them, look, is this a good strategy? They picked a few holes in it, tightened up some things that I hadn't sort of encountered for, and then was able to, then lock a plan in and execute off the back of that.
where is it that you started to invest then?
Yeah, so it was, we started in the start of 2021 was when we first purchased our first single let property, and they're all around Newcastle, well, within Newcastle.
Yeah,
So they're very, very north.
yeah. You're not based around there, are you? Whereabouts are you based?
No, so I'm actually based in Hertfordshire. So it's about a 4-hour drive from here. So yeah, it's pretty hands off.
Okay. Why did you select that area? What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, so I wanted a couple of things. One was that I wanted to generate cash flow off these properties so
Mhm.
that they would generate cash flow, and the areas that we go allowed to do that, the yields are a lot higher than certainly where I live here,
Yeah,
more south. So that was one of the key reasons. And then the other one was on Property Entrepreneur. Dan spoke quite a lot of around if you can buy houses cheaper than what you can build them,
yeah.
then there's potentially long-term a good argument there for it. So that also played into the mix.
Okay. Yeah, good. So, and I think the other really good thing is you've actually documented each property that you bought, haven't you, with on your blog?
Yeah, absolutely. So on christopher-moss.com, I've done 9 so far that are on there. There's more still to be put on. So yeah, there's 9 that are on there, where it's the before pictures, after pictures, the exact numbers, and then also challenges and stuff like that, which it's been good.
Okay, that's good. We also talk about like a 70-20-10 as far as allocating your time for the week, and then what part of that was this strategy for you?
Yeah, so I'm full-time in the marketing businesses, and that's what I do, and also what I understand a lot more than property. So this plays a small part in that 70-20-10. So it is the 10%. However, it's probably I time track everything, and it's about an hour and a half a week on average. Some weeks it might be 3, but an hour and a half on average.
Okay.
Some weeks it's none.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So I think that just shows it, even though people who, might have like busy jobs, having like their own businesses, that if you do set this up right, it is only kind of like, a small amount of time that you actually need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. What it forced, because I only have so little time, and going into it, I knew I only had so much. Like I was already didn't think there was any time to do this. I already thought I was as busy as it could get, but it was something that was important to me. So I wanted to find that time. But what it forced was to be creative, and actually, rather than, if it was near where I lived, would I have got dragged into maybe doing stuff or being more hands-on? Quite possibly. Whereas because it's 4 hours away and I had such little time, that's just not an option.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So when you started out, did you have any like funds to start investing?
Yes, yeah. So we did have we sort of had an initial pot that was £300,000 to be able to build the portfolio from. So yeah, we did have some money going into it.
Did you say that was retained from another of your businesses, was it?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was retained earnings from a previous business. So what we'd historically been doing is investing a lot more outside of the property sector, but wanted to actually diversify, and yeah, the nature of property was very appealing.
Okay, great. So who did you actually have in your team then? Which was kind of like the members that of your team that you needed to execute this?
Yeah, so there was all the ones that you'd sort of expect. So our solicitor was obviously a key person in this. We then had a company that did all the refurbs on it, which was so they took care of that whole process. So we didn't have to sort of manage builders or anything like that. We used a deal sourcer as well to be able to find all these properties. Because again, didn't have the time to be doing that, and also, to be totally honest, didn't have the knowledge either to do that myself. So they were the key ones. Obviously, we got a tax accountant, a property specialist, which we didn't have for. We have an accountant for our company, but not a property specialist. So we have a property tax specialist, and then also my partner as well, Phoenix. She did a lot of the paperwork element to it, which I hadn't anticipated there to be quite as much paperwork.
Yeah. Okay. And then did you use like a local letting agency then?
Apologies. Yes. Yeah. So once they were actually done and they were refurbished, it was then given to a letting agency, to a local letting agency to rent out.
Okay. And how did you get the refurb company then? Was that a referral?
So no, I actually which is part of actually where I saw the opportunity for oversubscribed. Is it was actually someone posted it in a group, so I was part of one of the property groups on Facebook, and someone kept posting their refurbishments that they were doing, and it was at the point where I was starting to think about finding someone to support me with this journey that I wanted to go on. So I saw their content, looked around, their website looked good, sort of vetted them, and then ended up going on an investor day with them. And that worked out really well. And then, went from there. The company's, I'm happy to say the company's actually a company called Emergence that we used.
And what were they? Were they sourcing and refurbs, or did they do both?
So they did both, yeah. So they had two separate parts to what they did, but they were my main point of contact.
Okay, very good. And then how many properties then have you bought on that strategy?
Yeah, so there's 10 in total that we've purchased since then. So it was just over an 18-month period in which we purchased those. So the last one was just before Christmas.
Okay, brilliant.
Back end of the summer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you was probably doing one every other month or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was one every other month that we had to agree to it. But then in terms of when they actually started, there was sometimes 3 on the go. We had our second property that we agreed to actually became our 7th, I think, because it was such a delayed process for actually purchasing it. So they didn't all fall as one every other month, but we had to find a deal every other month to make it happen.
And what was that the target that you'd set? Was it to get to 10, or what was you working towards?
Yeah, so the initial target was to cover our monthly outgoings from as a like personally to sort of try and cover the outgoings with the cash flow off those properties, which we were able to achieve with those 10 just about.
Okay. Yeah. So what was the target then, your initial target?
Yeah, so the initial target was actually £3,500. We didn't quite get that in cash flow. It's less than that, but that was the initial aim, which would be where we got to this point covers our outgoings, but it would be, if that's all we had to live off, it would be tight. Whereas that's where we got to.
Okay, that's good, because I think that's like one of the when I speak to clients that are looking to something similar, where they're building a portfolio either so that they can leave the job or so that just for like long-term investment. There tends to be like they want to 3,000. Most people can kind of like live off 3,000, or if they've got more overheads, it might be say 5,000, 10,000. Different things like that. But I think 3,000 is probably one of the common ones. And it's great you've been able to kind of like get to that, within 10. But obviously, I think we can go on to later as to your different strategy that you're working in now. So is there like a particular property that we can just run through so that people can kind of like see what the numbers might be, what the purchase price was, and refurb costs, and then the how you refinance that?
Yeah, sure. So we initially bought them with cash. So it's bought with cash for, I'll give you a sort of an average here. So around about £70,000. Some of them went up to 100 or 110, but I think the average was around about 70,000. Once we'd done a full refurb on it, so a lot of these properties weren't sort of in good shape, so they needed a full refurb. So they were full refurbishment that was costing between 20 and 25,000. So with legal fees and everything, it was like around 110,000 that we would spend on it. And then it would get refinanced for 115, maybe 120 if we were lucky, but most of them there wasn't much of an uplift there wasn't much uplift at that point. And then we refinanced at a 75% loan to value, and that would then give us the cash flow on a monthly basis after taking everything account. And if anyone checks out my blog, like it's literally line item, like photocopies from the bank is taken into account, like everything. If it left the bank, it went towards it. So roughly it generates £250 a month in cash flow to 300 cash flow per month.
I think those are kind of good approximate figures. 250 a month. Typically HMOs like £1,000 a month, but need an awful lot more cash. But yeah, so for somebody looking to get to £30,000, 10 buy-to-lets at 250 would kind of like get to that figure, so that people have like an idea. What type of properties were there that you were buying, Chris?
Yeah, so they were normally 2-3 bedroomed houses. Well, they were either 2 or 3 bedroomed houses, ideally sort of end of terraced house,
Yeah.
family house, nice garden, or a garden, parking. Yeah, basically like a place that I would want to live in, was sort of the criteria for them. And then the tenants that we will attract is sort of families and people that want to make it their home.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I think one of the good things with well, I think two main things for buy to lets as an investment is the tenants tend to stay long term. So if it's in like a good area close to schools, then your tenants can. I mean, I've had some that are over 10 years. But
Yeah.
they can stay long term, which is obviously different to a HMO. We say maybe 12 months as an average. And I think the other good thing with buy to lets is that once you get to like capital growth of about 40%, so like, having a property of 100,000 that then goes up to 140, you can refinance and get all your capital out. So then you're then holding a property that's got none of your cash in, and you've got, cash flow and then obviously the capital growth going forward. So I think it's a great strategy for that.
Yeah, yeah. I've not had them long enough to know the capital growth side of it. I'm hoping soon
Yeah.
forward 10 years, and that will be the case. And in terms of the tenant, we've really experienced that so far. So I think out of all 10, we've only had one person move out after 12 months. Everyone else has continued to stay. And the first house that we bought and rented out, they actually redid. So we left the garden in a good shape. It wasn't bad by any means, but they actually fully landscaped it themselves, and like made it into this incredible garden.
Oh,
and when
amazing.
the letting agent sent me a picture of it, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I actually posted it into a property group, and it got like 300 comments or something, but everyone was like, why would you fake this? What's the point of this? And I didn't. It was genuine. I had nothing to gain by posting that, and I got some serious abuse because it was so good. Yeah.
Very good. So, for anybody looking to do the same, have you got like 3 top tips?
Yeah, so I think if you're in a position where I was, where I'm very much known for marketing, but I knew there might be a time that I might want to raise finance or do something. So raising your profile is probably the first top tip. The amount of sort of people that reach out to me or say, look, I've got this deal, and I go and check their social channels out, and it's like they're down the pub with their mate and like drinking a can of Carlin in their photo, instantly puts me off. So yeah, raising your profile is probably my first top tip, and just cleaning up your online profile. Because if you're asking an investor for money, or even just trying to engage with deal sources and like credible people, you don't put yourself in good light in a lot of cases.
Did you actually raise any funds yourself from your posts?
Yes, yeah. So I had that initial pot of money that I started to buy the properties with, but because we were buying them all cash, after 3, we had that money fully tied up in the properties. So we needed to then, if I wanted to do it quicker, which I did, then I had to raise money. So for some of them, we raised 50% of the money for the properties, which was about just under £200,000 we raised in total, and then repaid.
Great. Yeah.
So that's the first top tip, raising profile. The second one is and Dan actually says this on Property Entrepreneur, so delegate, do nothing, delegate everything. With the property strategy for us, that had to be the case because I had no other choice. Whereas if you've got the choice, you might be tempted to do more stuff yourself. And obviously there are advantages in some cases for that, but yeah, that would be my second top tip, is delegate and just be super organized. And then final top tip is, which really helped me, is just surrounding yourself with good people. That if you're like I was, where you don't have the level of experience in property that I wanted, certainly, then being on Property Entrepreneur allowed me to tap into people that were like yourself, that have been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah, I think it's a great community, and I think there's always somebody that you can go to within there if you're looking for any information. So yeah, I think I think that's been really good.
Yeah, no, I was really, it was amazing because obviously when you reach out to someone and ask for some help or something, you never know whether they're going to give it. And I think everyone that I reached out to on the property entrepreneur community came back to me and gave me some of their time to help at no cost.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I would have paid.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So anybody that's looking to contact you, what's the best contact details, Chris?
Yeah, so if it's for me and wanting to look at property stuff, christopher-moss.com is a good place, and they can see some of the properties as well on there. And then if anyone wants to work with Oversubscribed or wants more information about what we do, then it's oversubscribed.co.uk, and there's a way to contact me on there, as well as all social channels as well, as you'd imagine.
Great. So just to recap then, in the 18 months on your buy-to-lets, what was the total value of the properties that you managed to acquire?
Yeah, so just in the 18 months, it was a million, just over £1 million, and in total £1.5 million after that period, which is where we're at to date.
Fantastic. And you've already moved on to your next strategy as well, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. So I've got a secret joint venture partner who I'm doing some work with that I'm excited to share on my social channels in the coming months. But yeah, the deals and the different things are super exciting. And yeah, if anyone wants more information about those, then I'm more than happy to share. And if they drop me a message, but yeah, I'm excited to share that.
Great. Well, stay tuned for that. And thanks for your time, Chris. Good to see you.
Amazing. Thanks, Mark. Thank you.